Well, there we go. Previous movie, beginning with the Parmak 30-mile Mark 8 energizer. I believe it was running at about 13.5 at that time. However, a considerable length of fencing has been added here during the last week. And we'll once again go by the chickens. And note, however, that now there is fence extending up to our gateway here and continuing back to a gate fence here where I'll be able to access the barn when I need to load hay and do other things that require the truck to be back here. But I've effectively closed off my access way there, so we will proceed into the barn instead and wait for some light adjustment here and see that the reason for all of this are this little group of sheep in the dark here who have been very patient with us while this process has gone on. We have 5 1 ram and 4 ewes, and now have entered into the enclosure from the other side. I've used the simplest approach I can think of to get things to stay where they should and put some tension on. This technique worked very well for me. I have tested these corners using a homemade twist wire. This is the reba, which has had the insulation stripped off of it and then wound around a piece of steel. I'll show that in a minute if I find it again. But each of these tags is held on by one of these twisties. It makes a neat arrangement for the transfer of energy down these lines. That being the distance from another connection going on up here. I used twist ties at every location on the fence to secure the wire. A bit of a tedious thing, but for about $17 per thousand at Home Depot, they are very handy to secure the wire. I'll note here that I left an excess bit of wire in the loop. I start out on the bottom and I run the bottom line and pull the top line off of a spool all the way to the opposite end. And then I have 2 lines in place to work with and come back, and then made this loop that continues back. All my wiring is continuous in this way, and use the wires, the wire spindles, I'm going to call them the twist wires, to attach to each location on the upper wire. This section, going away from the energy post, stops at the corner of the barn over there in a straightaway. I call it the A line. It's the more or less permanent line to keep predation at bay in the direction of the woods back here. It makes a continuous loop all the way up to, there's a clump of blackberries sticking out along the fence line there, and the point of this continuous run is that it ends up there and returns back down this line. And I slipped the line over there. Continues back to a second post that was introduced this week because I need to be able to gate my way into that side of the pasture. The A line again continuing east and west here provides this barrier. The last time we saw this post, I had just installed the switch, but since then it has acquired some kind of weird looking arrangement of latches, all of which have been secured with spindle wires like this. They also wired onto the bottom of the handle instead of wearing away on the wire or 9-wire power fence. The strand of galvy wire is hooked onto the aperture in the handles. This gate here is intended for getting out that way and of course carrying energy. My understanding is to be able to produce a continuous run back to the energy. In each case then there's no dead ending. Electricity will travel to a dead end. But as I say, I've wired each of these and looped them on the far end, brought them back to a loop here, and then run the third line up from the ground back out and finally ending it here. So there are two ends, the top and the bottom, and everything is continuous in between. This gateway is access for the tractor to get onto this side of the A-line, and that hole should be big enough for me to get onto that side of the A-line, where a good bit of the tractor activity will happen back here. It's a Massey Ferguson 35 Deluxe from 1962, Perkins diesel, and it operates in lieu of its getting a new gasket on the top side of the fuel injector. So this sort of caps the it's Friday. I was last Saturday out here making the first film, and so you can see I've been busy this week. I actually did move that far post line just a couple of hours ago, and now I realized that one of my electric zip ties slipped. This was a homemade spool dispenser. Allowed me to get a couple of spools on there, and this was the tool, which is actually a Allen wrench, but a long-stemmed Allen wrench which had a good diameter for winding up the spirals to hook the wires on. There was a hammer there and a screwdriver that was used for pilot holing, putting a pilot hole in the ground to put the step posts in. There's quite a lot of rock, small and large rock, in our ground. Well, I buried some of it here in this little patch that was a hollow in the first place, digging that hole the other day, and other holes around here. It's been a rock heap and a hollow. And this is also some of the reason that we now have a little bit more control over our grazing. That's Al staring over the top of the fence there. Where all we have are gelded. I beg your pardon, we have 2 natural alpacas and 2 gelded. The smaller one here and the one over at the feeder are the naturals, and these 2 boys, all 4 of them actually, let's see, Al is about the oldest at 5, and then, no, it's the reverse. Al's 4, Titus is 5, Frisco is, he was a yearling this year, and his pal over here, Karaz, is a bit smaller animal, but they're both a year old. We look forward to having their fiber here soon, but additionally, they've been yearning to be out there in the field. We do have some evidence of grasses beginning to grow here February 9th in Maple Valley, Washington. Hope you enjoy. There are things to do and maintain here, but I feel like most everything I want to do is in place. My intention with this piece that runs, as I pointed out earlier, clear up to the point up there, is hooked on to the A-line here down there, and again hooked up just over our shoulder. It's my intention to wave that around like a big piece of sea kelp and weave it in and out of the woods and around the entire backside of the property here during the spring months, well, the summer is hoped for to see how our grasses recover, and returning around to the barn and the house, this area here from the cottonwood down the A line, down to the common fence line, and over to the cyclone fence are intended to be stockpiling area. I'm going to plant some seed corn that came off of Craigslist a little while back and experiment with some other seeds and let it stockpile here as summer progresses. Use it as I need to in the fall and winter. I can do a little bit of irrigation out of our water system off the barn. I have a good slope to work with a drip irrigation plan that will be coming along here with PVC and hose and so on. But it's been a busy week for me. Fortunately, with the exception of maybe 2 afternoons when I got rained out, I was able to stick with it and get things in place. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your day.